Welcome. Welcome, everyone.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. How are you
This
today?
music actually sounds like what we used to have in South Africa. What was that news cafe?
Yeah, yeah.
Those were the days, right?
Those were the days. That's what, 2010, around that time?
2011, 2010,
2010,
2011.
2011. Yep, yep. How are you today? Ready for today?
Well, I want to, as always, say to the wonderful audience, welcome to another wonderful Wednesday. I remember there used to be a Budweiser commercial that used to call Wednesday Hump Day, Hump Day. But one of the things that I like to say to all others is that, hey, you don't really want to be in a position to where you are accelerating your life, right? You don't want to be in that position where you're are accelerating your life. You want to be in that position to where you are taking it day by day, right? And more so
Mhm.
than anything else, you are absolutely being present for what's going on in the world. You see
Mm.
what I'm saying? You
Mhm.
are absolutely being present for what's going on in the world. And present means that you're not worried so much about what happened yesterday, right? So today, there is absolutely nothing that we can do about yesterday, right? It's already set in stone. It has to go the way that it has to go, right? But another part of that is too often, too many people are spending time thinking about tomorrow. They're worried about tomorrow. They're causing them stress about something that hasn't even yet had the opportunity to occur, right? And they're stressing themselves about those things at the same time, right? So for this wonderful Wednesday, right? I know I started off with being present, but I just put it into the Facebook chat, and I'm going to put it into the chat here. It's a quick question that I had the other day, and I wanted to get everyone's opinion on it, but I'll put it up, and it's the fact that we had an interesting conversation this week in the Jake and Gino Monday Masterclass, which led me to
Yeah.
think about what are small business owners doing to plan for retirement and one day exit from their business. Are they leveraging solo 401ks, self-directed IRAs? But it is something that I it's not a conversation with all my networking being at the BNIs, etc. It's not a conversation that I have had personally with a lot of small business owners. And you are a small business owner, so I'll start the conversation with you, Eunice. How much time have you spent just thinking about, retirement as a small business owner? And do you also couple the fact that one day you want to retire, and in that retirement one day you're possibly going to sell your business?
Yeah. I think as I build my business concurrently, I'm building now and looking for things to do now to help my business grow, as well as look at where will this business be 5 years from now? Where will this business be 10 years from now? And how does all that fit into my personal plans, which at some point I have a number in my mind, But at some point, I know I'm going to also retire. And then what happens to this business? Do I sell the
Hmm.
business? Do I just close doors? What happens? And those are things that I spend time thinking about. Unfortunately, I don't think much about those things, only because I'm still also trying to set up the business now. However, I do know these are things I need to think about more often. And as I interact with other business owners, I'm always listening in, I'm always learning from them to find out what are they doing, how are they planning their exit from their businesses that they have spent so much time and money in building, just so that I don't miss anything. And I think if I'm being, if I, yeah, if, when we act, when I actually got a life policy on myself as the key person in the business, it was because I had had conversations and learned from others the importance of making sure that that is there, right? So all these things are not because I've always known what needed to be done, but it's because as I interact more and more with other small business owners, I'm always learning from them, and I go and do my own research to see what can be applicable to my own business as well, just to make sure that I have the resources that are needed tomorrow.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to think about it. The one thing about being an entrepreneur is the fact that, you have a wonderful business idea, right?
Yeah.
And at times that business idea isn't yet fully fleshed out. That business idea is still, let's call it a baby. That business idea is a baby. And as the baby is born, all of a sudden the baby is now in diapers and crying, but eventually that baby will walk, right?
Mm.
And you remember with the children when they started walking, the next thing, we didn't have a need for children's gates in the house, right? But then all of a sudden, once and you have the pictures to actually share of that, we had to have gates all over the house just to prevent little baby from crawling and falling down the steps, because that would not have been a good thing, right?
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
also, I'm just curious, inside of our audience as a whole, how many of those small business owners are planning for retirement? And how do you set up your business today such that in 5 years, how do you set it up such that in 6 years, et cetera, maybe even 10 years or 40 years? But how do you grow your business so that when you sell it, everything is in order? Right? I think it's a matter of also having everything in order such that when you do hand over your P&L, et cetera, to that potential purchaser, you're not going to have to be going back and forth, et cetera. Your business is a going concern. And
Mhm.
as a going concern, your business will be in a position where it can actually stand all on its own away from you.
That's right. You said something, though that this conversation is not really the focus of that, but what I wanted to say from what you were saying is that as you embark on this journey, there has to be that exit strategy, right? And what is it that others are doing as part of that exit strategy? And for you to be able to do that as well, you have to treat your business as a business. You may be doing what most people say, hey, this is what I'm passionate about, which is great.
Mhm.
but you have to treat it as a business, unless it's just something that you do to pass time. But once you commit that this is a business, you have to think about the exit. You have to think about how you're going to grow the business right now. And you also have to think about where you are going to be a couple of years from now. Are you going to work the business until you are in your 80s and 90s? What are you going to do? How are you going to make sure that your business is a going concern so that if or when the time is right for you to exit, you are able to sell the business? Because a lot of times, I think one of the biggest challenges with some small businesses is that sometimes these are things that we do that we are passionate about, that we love, and we're able to make money out of. However, it's not a business that you can sell off to someone else.
No, because I get that email probably, well, at least several times a week, and that email is from Biz Buy Sell,
Hmm.
and I'm just looking through it out of a matter of curiosity, right? More so than anything else, because I'm not chasing those purple squirrels anymore and saying, "Well, I want to go purchase this business or I want to purchase that business,"
Yeah.
etc. We're pretty much locked in on what we're doing around real estate. However, I'm looking at some of these businesses, and I can remember one in particular that stands out to me, and it was the sale of a smoothie franchise, right? And what I noticed is that they were selling the smoothie franchise, if memory serves me, for $20,000, right? If I
Mhm.
When I did my research on that particular business, I learned that the startup cost for that business, when you go to their website, was ranging between 50 and $75,000 were the startup costs for that business. And here that business was being sold for $20,000. I just looked at it more so from the concern of, wow, they had made at least a $50,000 investment. That business has been a going concern for several years.
Mhm.
And now they were only trying to sell that business on the market for $20,000. That business was located at the mall, and it was by the main entrance to the mall, and it's no longer there. So I know that that business has gone out of business.
Yeah.
But that is something that, we are trying to help other business owners to avoid that type of calamity for the most part. We don't want to be in a position where we see other business owners. And one of the things that I often see when I get onto that Ashburn periodical, I think it's called The Burn, you often see this business is no longer in business anymore. They shut down their doors, etc. Right? So as you are taking that holistic approach to business, what is it that you can do in order to ensure the viability of your business as a going concern? And whenever I do have that conversation with a business owner, I say that yes, cash flow is king, but credit is queen. If cash flow is king,
Yeah.
then credit is queen, because my perspective is that the business is going to be able to handle the ebbs and flows, right?
Mhm.
Because if you are a small business owner, one of the things that I think most people can take away from is that the revenues, depending on your product, depending on your service, etc., the revenues aren't flatline, right? As a real estate agent, a mortgage broker, probably even as a contractor, etc., your accounts receivables are going to be fluctuating, right?
Mhm.
However, although your accounts receivables are fluctuating, at the same time that those account receivables are fluctuating, your fixed expenses aren't fluctuating. So here you have your fixed costs going up and down. However, your accounts payable is fixed because you got rent, etc. And you can't really, go to your customers and say, hey, I need to be paid today with a gun, right? They're going to pay
Exactly.
when they can pay. How do small businesses handle that particular occurrence, and what are they doing differently to handle that? Right. And that's one of the reasons why we created this podcast, so that we could have conversations with others as to what it is that they're actually doing in order to handle those ebbs and flows. And that's part of the conversation that we had last week with Matusi and strategic partnerships, because in his business, he has to front a lot of what's happening, right? Construction,
Yep.
materials, labor, etc. He's fronting all of that, and he's fronting all of that, and he's waiting for the owners to pay him at the same time. So, if you weren't able to join us last week, it's going to definitely be here. It's also going to be up on our YouTube channel, where we had an interesting conversation with Matuse at Strategic Partners, right?
Strategic
About how
projects. Mhm.
strategic projects, on how he handles all of that at the same time. But yeah,
And
very
I
interesting.
think, it's going to vary, of course, depending from industry to industry. But what is important is just, what are you doing, and do you have a plan? Right. A lot of times, just the other day, I had a conversation with somebody who has a business where they make candles, scented
Mm,
candles, and now they're trying to also expand that business by doing hand lotions, right, to go along with the scented candles. And like we said, you're going to have seasons. You're going to have times when there's an abundance coming in, and then you're also going to have times when you say, customers, where are you? I need some sales, right?
mm,
And the conversation was, what do you do on those times when there isn't enough cash flow coming in for you to be able to meet the expenses of the business? And those are the type of conversations that we love to have with our audience, with everyone, to learn from each other, because what works for one person may not work for another. However, we all can agree that whatever the plan is, there has to be from cash coming in, and there has to also be some type or some use of credit. Whether it's going to be your personal credit or your business credit, those are the things that are going to really distinguish the businesses that may be able to sustain, or that may be able to weather through when times are tough. So the conversations really are surrounding, what type of credit do you have, or that your business has, that if or when you have those slower seasons, you are still able to stay afloat, right?
well, the only thing that I think that there's one bit of what you said that I would want to challenge just a little bit, is the
Mhm.
fact that you mentioned personal credit. And one of the things that we espouse to when we're, well, at least the conversations that I'm having with small business owners, is that you want to grow your business to a position where, if you are applying for credit, right, you do not want to include your social security number on that application,
Mhm.
right? That application for credit should only include the EIN number for your business, because you are qualifying for whatever credit that you are applying for using your business's credit profile. And there's two
Yes.
reasons why we spoke about that the last time. Is one, you on your personal side do not want to impact your credit utilization, right? Which is going to then have a direct impact on your FICO score, right? Because the
Mhm.
more credit that you have available and the more of that you use, that utilization number impacts your personal credit score. So now, when you are looking to do something on the personal side, you're going to be impacted in doing whatever you're doing because you have taken out credit for your business, right? So now that's going to impact you because now you're not able to get the best terms that are available to you. And while many people don't really have that conversation around, uh, their FICO score, but the real reason why you want to have a good FICO score is that you get the best terms, those advertised terms that you see on television when you have 700, 800 personal credit scores, and you don't want to have that impacted by the business as a whole. So that's the
Mhm.
only piece of that I would make a correction on, is to say that from a business perspective, you don't want to be using your personal credit in order to finance and grow your business. And one of the things that you had also mentioned with the client who you were having that conversation with, is the client had a candle business, but they needed access to capital so that they could have a conversation with regard to now putting in a different service line. So in order
No,
to put
growth.
out
Mhm.
that different service line, there's going to have to be some R&D that kicks in, right? There's going to have to be some R&D that kicks in so that they would have the resources to be able to create samples, do the testing inside of a laboratory, etc., so that they would be able to make that investment in order to grow that second service line. We've done that with the different components of our business as well, is being able to have access to credit facilities that allow us to expand our business.
Yeah. Well, I think what it all boils down is that, similar to us when we first started our businesses, to a large extent, we were just really using our personal credit. And
Hmm.
until you learn and you are aware that there is a better way, right? And this is what this platform is really about as well, to share with others that you do not have to put your personal credit in jeopardy by financing everything using your personal credit. Because, like you said, when you do that, you are limiting the things that you would have access to, if you wanted to do something personally, even for the business. If you are using your personal credit for the business and you are looking to grow, that might be limiting depending on how you've been paying, or the type of debt that's already underneath you personally, right? However, when you have your separation between that personal and your business, it allows you more opportunities, right? Where your business is really functioning as a business away from your personal, such that if ever you were really caught between a hard space, you may now fall onto your personal credit, right? But if you
Hmm.
everything is already just on your personal credit, when things get tough, you literally have nowhere else to go. But if you
No,
have a good business credit, if ever things got so tough and you said, okay, I really have no other option, I've got nowhere to go, it's either this or we close doors today, you may be able to now tap into your personal, because all along it has been separated and it hasn't been negatively impacted by the business. Because the truth of the matter is, especially as entrepreneurs, that not all businesses start and flourish and just end up listing on the stock exchange and everything is just going great, right? The truth of the matter is, we all fall into hard times. We all fall into times when money is not coming in, but expenses have to be paid, right? So let's not blind ourselves with the notion that, well, once you've started a business you should pretty much be all right. It doesn't typically work like that. Some businesses have been able to start and just see an upward trend. I haven't come across many or any like that, but um, I want to be, you know, realistic that, like many people, even us, we didn't
Mhm.
just see an upward trend, right? There were times when we were going up and it was all great. There were times when it was going down. And on those times when it was going down, we were grateful that we had established these different lines of credit.
No, I was just having a conversation with a lead that came in for our business probably early January. So,
Hmm.
the our sales process is to reach out for the first 7 days, etc. However, when we have a lead, if that lead becomes stale, once a month is when we're going to reach out to that lead and have a conversation to see if there's going to be an opportunity for us to help that client, right? So
Hmm.
this morning when I was making my calls, I reached out to this gentleman and I asked him if he was still interested in moving forward with building out his corporate credit profile. And sadly, he said to me, I'm going out of business.
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And, our mission in the world is to help small business owners provide guidance, leveraging some of the books that we've read, leveraging our own personal experience to avoid having that type of conversation. That's what our mission is, to give small businesses the foundations that they need in order to be in a position where they don't have to send that email that says going out of business.
Yeah. That's sad. And in that instance, you have to also think about one thing that comes to my mind is, as you close down doors, right? Did you at least have something that you had, for example, if you had some type of insurance, that's the time when that insurance could kick in and help you out, you know?
Mhm.
Or did you even have any type of funds when the business was still operational, where you saved something into your retirement? Right. Because, it's one thing to say, well, I had a business for the past 7 years and now it's closed, and there's nothing that shows that at some point this business was there and it was able to get a couple of things for you as the owner as well, right? Because,
Mm.
you know, you could say you can go into get a W 2, at least if there's anything from that W 2, you may have your 401k, right? Even if you lose the job, you could say, well, I still have something for tomorrow. It may not come in now, but I have something for tomorrow. When you have a W 2, you may say, well, I have access to healthcare, right? So you want to make sure that as you are running the business now, there are a lot of things that you need to establish to make sure that they are available for you, so that tomorrow, we don't know what tomorrow is going to hold, but if tomorrow comes and there's a need, there might be something that you can pull out of some of the things that you did while the business was flourishing now, that you can now use.
Mm.
Yeah. But, I think we know and we are aware that businesses close. Sometimes businesses are not able to grow. Sometimes businesses are not able to get the resources that they need to be able to do the things that they need to do. But there are resources out there. I think one of the things that I've learned as being an entrepreneur is that I have to be very intentional about learning about what being an entrepreneur is all about, right? For the longest time, being in corporate America, I knew what needed to be done. I knew what I got. But now
Mm.
that I'm no longer there, I have to make sure that even as I work hard towards my business, that there are certain things that I can't just take for granted, whether it's life insurance, whether it's health insurance, whether it's solo 401k, all these things, I have to make sure that those things are also covered so that I'm not left exposed in the event that something does happen and the business goes down.
No,
Yeah.
the other part of the question that, for some of those small businesses that have had to say, well, we are no longer in business, what is the next step for that entrepreneur? Is it,
Mm-hmm.
starting another business, or is it going back into career and having to do the 9 to 5 thing all over again?
Mm-hmm.
But
Well,
all,
difficult
all
decisions.
you
Difficult
know, they
decisions.
no one ever said that this life of ours was easy.
Yep.
And even if, your business is thriving today, like I was having a conversation with someone who's helping us with our Facebook um, audience targeting. What was working yesterday no longer is working today. So we always have to be evolving our business. So even if your business is, making more revenue than what you had ever anticipated, there is probably going to be that time in your business where what worked before didn't work. you know just like this week, we didn't really jump into today's call and start out with business insight, but on Monday and Tuesday we had a big hit on the stock market because there's a startup in China called DeepSeek that basically was able to do something. It created a model that used less resources and less power and had less of an upfront investment, right, than what was happening with Gemini, Llama, and Chat GPT, right? They were able to build something significantly cheaper than what these other ones were. So now the biggest question was there the valuations that all of these AI companies are holding, whether or not if these valuations were solid, which then led to, I don't know how much the stock market went down on Monday because I'm not playing the market that way, but what once worked out well tomorrow can absolutely change, and as the entrepreneur you are responsible for that. So
Yep.
it was kind of sort of a conversation that you have to have, like when you have a conversation about final expenses, etc., right? It's not a conversation that you necessarily want to have, but it is definitely a conversation that you need to have. So as we close out for today's session, Eunice, why don't you uh give something positive to be thinking about for next week when we have another wonderful Wednesday when we join again. And I believe that we're going to have a guest on next week as well. We don't have to actually give the prelude to what she's going to be speaking about, but know that every other Wednesday, what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring a guest who's going to bring some insight, etc., that you can actually use for your business. So hit them with something for Wonderful Wednesday, Eunice.
Well, I I would say get ready. Get ready for The tax season, I plan, and I'm one of those people who like to do things pretty early on. And I've started seeing emails coming in. Oh, this form is here. This form is available. All these things. So get ready for that. Don't be caught off guard and be that person who's running around 2 3 days prior. If if you want to enjoy the tax season, start now.
Wow, yeah, you don't want to be in that position where, for small businesses, the deadline for filing your taxes for the small business, the entity, the LLC, is March 15th typically, unless March 15th falls on a weekend, then you get the extension. But that has to be prepared so that you can prepare for your personal
Mhm.
taxes on April 15th. But like us and other small businesses, for the most part, we don't pay our taxes until April because we're expecting a whole bunch of different K1s and all of those different things from the investments that we're in to start landing, and they never land before April 15th. Unfortunately, as it may be, but they never land that early. So anything that you can do to prepare for that, to make sure that your life is a little bit easier and with less stress, you can do all of those things now. So,
Definitely.
hey, another wonderful Wednesday in Virginia here. I just looked at my phone and I'm going to go for a walk. It's 54 degrees. So
Nice.
let's shut down here and get out and enjoy this wonderful weather that we have in January. And we'll see you again on the next wonderful Wednesday with Eunice and Lee Johnson on Business Insights. We want to thank you for those who, oh, you know what? We didn't do it yet, but are there any questions that we have? I don't know. I'm not looking at the chat, but are there any questions in the chat? I don't see any questions in the chat.
I
So
think you
yeah,
and I just got caught up in talking and talking. I wasn't also looking at the chat. I hope we didn't miss or leave anyone out if they had any questions. But our numbers are there, our contacts, our Facebook. There's on the screen. There's also email, phone number, how to get in
everything.
touch with us. So if for whatever reason we didn't read out your question, or we didn't address something that you wanted us to address, please do let us know. Come up also with topics that you want to hear us talk about. We pretty much try and talk to you, our audience, about business credit, preparing for when or after you die, and what happens to the business, to your family, and things of that sort. We talk about investing in real estate. We try and be that community where business owners can come in and have a safe space where we can have conversations, we can grow together, we can help and advise each other out. So if there's anything that maybe you say, hey, I haven't had them talk about this, send it over. Let's see. We may be able to have a conversation. We may even be able to have you as a guest. And if you are sitting there as a guest, a small business owner, and you would be interested in sharing a little bit about what you do and share or help the community grow, there's a QR code right now on your screen that you may want to click into so that you can fill out that form, and then we can have you here as one of our guests. But other than that, I don't have anything else except to just enjoy the rest of your Wednesday and see you again next week.
And be present. That's why they call it a gift. Have a good week, everyone. We'll talk again soon.